We're glad to introduce our community friend and speaker for the second time this year, Mohamed Taman. And Mohamed, hi.
Hi.
Mohamed is a senior solution architect at Nortal and a Java champion, a consultant architect, and a CEO at Cyrus XI, right?
XI. X
Yeah.
Innovations. City
And today,
Innovations.
and I don't know how you've seen our previous speakers, but based on your answers, we prepared some like co-pilot for you during this conference. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you have even
It's super
something
cool.
similar.
Thank you.
Okay, Mohammed, who is this actually? With whom you came to us? Let's give a name to this person.
uh, let's say it like Igor Mu.
Igor.
Yeah, Mu is my short name in Serbia, so they always like call me Mu, 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 and not Mu like a cow, like Mu because but it's something like this. But yeah, I
Igor.
like this combination of character, Igor Mu. Yeah, it just
That's
came in
great.
my mind, Mu, like Igor Mu.
Is he good in Java?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to. I can rate
Support.
him like 3.5 or something.
Okay, and what is his
He's
superpower?
eager to learn always. Superpower that that he's a really quick learner and trying to figure out many things at the same time
Oh,
and love to learn always. So this is how his thoughts getting bigger and bigger.
oh, that's great. So today, Muhammad and Igor will guide you through the evolution from Java 11 to Java 21. Feel free to ask Muhammad and Igor about everything in Slido. Our virtual stage is yours, guys.
Okay, I just would like to ask, could you see my presentation?
Uh,
I just shared it. Yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to my presentation. And I hope that you enjoyed all the previous amazing speakers that I always attend their sessions as well. So, and the upcoming speakers, and you also are amazing. So thank you for having me and having this opportunity to speak again in Cloud Builders. And it's always my pleasure. So I want to, just because of the time and of stuff to speak about it. So I'm going to speak about Java 11 to 21 evolution, how Java really grows and grows up and trying to make features that cope with a new technology and cutting edge tools and everything and provide solution for every single corner cases, even if we can imagine, and how it was going. And this presentation actually is based on one big question, which was, is Java still relevant? It was like one question that I have been always asked: is Java still, more relevant and worth learning in 2023? And this is why I came up with this idea to give you opportunity to see what happens in Java from Java 11 to 21. So I will not introduce myself because my previous colleague has introduced me more nicely than I would say. And I have a lot of publication, especially about Java, and you can find always there is. I write article for Java magazine specifically when it was like still running. So you'll find all what I'm giving as a series of hidden gems of specific JDK 16 to 21, and also sneak peek about what we are going to provide in the next JDK. So I will share my presentation, and you can go through all these links, and then you can have the full explanation of everything. So you can catch me here at any time, search my name on Google, and you'll find all my links, and would be very glad to connect with you guys and have your questions. So let's deep dive.
So our agenda today is going. We have a specific, like, small history about Java, and we need to know about LTS new changes and some specific facts that some people are confused about. And then I will gonna check about Java 11 to 17 opinionated feature, which means from LTS to LTS. And then we will check from the next features until 21, which is now is the last LTS, and then we will check the resources. So about Java history, I'm not going to speak a lot, but you can see from this graph uh, that the release cadence of 6 months was really really great idea to deliver features in a speedy way, that you can try this feature on every 6 months, and also take your opinion and get this feedback into the engineers working on GDK to make the changes, and we don't have to wait for long time. That has happened with GDK 8 and 7 and 9. Even you can see the difference is like between each release starting from not less than 3 years, while we are in the era of releasing frequently, and you find like Python, C++, C Sharp, even C++, and more other languages like JavaScript, TypeScript, like Groovy, Scala. All these languages are speedy and provide a lot of releases, but the releases doesn't come for free, because it has to introduce breaking changes. And this is also a concept that we have adopted in GDK, that we will introduce breaking changes and removals along the time for old and deprecated features, and that also the features that was deprecated since 1.2. So and this is very important to know. And in order to have a smoother, cleaner GDK, and also provide a new technology, and we don't have to waste, resources and engineers working on maintainability of old and obsolete technologies, or something that doesn't have to exist anymore, and prevent you from and the newcomers to Java from using these features. Like, you are deprecating something, why you don't remove it? It's for background compatibility, but I leave for you a little bit gap between each release. Like, I imagine that I'm starting JDK 13 and I start to deprecate something, then I will give you at least 2 releases in order to remove it finally. So you expect that what is deprecated for removal in JDK 13 has to be removed in JDK 16, and so on. Unless it's like, if it's a small effort to do, but if it's bigger, it might take more. So I give you opportunity to change your code, to adapt, and also be ready for the next release. So every 6 months, you can see like GDK 9 came up just with only 91 features as a main feature. I don't speak about the hidden features coming to enhancement to classes, to APIs, to GVM. Those are the main that has a lot of effort, that obvious for everyone as a GEP, Java Enhancement Proposals. So you can imagine that the number of JIPs has been reduced, yes, but with more focus and quality and frequent releases. So this is very important to know. And what is LTS actually? All of you know about LTS. What does it mean? Long-term support. And it's a marketing concept. It's related to a specific vendor GDK. It doesn't mean that like I showed to you the previously, the chart, that about like LTS coming now every 2 years, not 3 years, in order to introduce the features is more and more frequently to you, and also for the companies to adopt GDK more and more. So whatever the vendor you are choosing. So we say like OpenGDK and Oracle says like, yeah, I'm gonna release my LTS every 2 years, but some other like Azul, or some other like Corito or Microsoft OpenGDK or whatever it is, they can release and introduce LTS as a frequency, like every 3 years, every 1 year, every 6 months. And it happens like you can take, for example, each vendor can decide how and when to ship. And also Azure, for example, has immediate term support for the feature release. Feature release is the release between LTSs. So it just lasts for 6 months, and after that there is no more support. But sometimes you are running on these kind of releases and you need support. You can ask Azure for this, because they are providing such support. So for how long? Usually for 6 to 8 years. And what is the development impact of LTS on us? Like bug fixes covered for long time, performance improvement, you will gain it, new features, vulnerabilities, fixes, and we are in cybersecurity vulnerabilities nowadays, and we have to fix security as much as we can on the go. So this is very important to have updates for the security and the new security concerns that has been introduced in terms of algorithms, hashing, decoding, encoding algorithms and enhancement. This is very important. So, and it's a commercial support. So now let's check out Java opinionated. I'm not going to speak about all the features, because if I want to speak about all the features, I need like a workshop. But those are the most obvious feature that I see that it's effectively could change and more frequently used by developers. So if we started from Java 11, as you can see, which was the first LTS release in the new release cadence of 6 months, because we have 9 and we have 8, and then 9 was the last one. Then we have 10 and then 11. 11 came with a lot of things to introduce for us and concepts and everything. And by the way, when we say a new enhancement or a new GDK, it doesn't mean that I'm speaking about the Java language as a language that I'm typing in. It's all more. Java is more about the GVM. The GVM here is the core player. So all the engineering, all the innovations, everything happens in the GVM. And yes, Java is the language of that GVM, the main language of that GVM. And we are enhancing it because it has to be more robust, less verbose, and more concise. And keeping also the concept of object-oriented, we don't break it, and also provide more and better features like virtual threads, for example, something that we'll speak about. So as you can see, always, if we have a small language features, we have bunch of GVM features, as you can see here. And there is a lot of garbage collections came out, not just only Oracle contributed, there is a lot of companies contributed also, from Red Hat, from IBM, from Microsoft. Now it's open more and more than before, that Oracle doesn't only contribute and maintaining and steering the GDK, open GDK, only a lot of other companies that has interest joining, and there is a bunch. You can go to a lot of articles, even my articles I mentioned about it, you can find a lot of vendors because they have an interest in the GVM and the Java as a language itself. And also is not about GVM, we have enhancement, which comes in form of like porting for a new architecture, operating system architecture or hardware architecture, and deprecation for old porting that we will not support in Java, garbage collections, a lot of things in memory, enhancement in memory and performance and API and connectivity, a lot of stuff going behind. And you can see that those are the main chips that is behind that. There is also tools. We have tools that help you to debug and to learn more about Java, an easier way, not like old way we will see. And also APIs coming into play that introduce a new modules like HTTP client, which is amazing module, and support for the scripting of the language like Unicode 10 and 14 and 15. It's always supported. So you have this kind of scripting, a lot of like, enhancement in transportation layer, security, algorithms, and everything, as well as I told you, removal and deprecation. So always when we mention now deprecation means there will be replacement in the future releases, and we will remove those kind of features completely from the GDK for more cleaner. Yes, I told you, forward migration and easier releases has to come with a price. We will not maintain completely the background compatibility into some points. So it's not like every single story that we have before. So if I want to speak about some features like, we have Lambda has been introduced, and we can just declare a type for Lambda, variables, like I can provide string or I can omit them, and I can use var. And this was a corner case, but why I need to use var? Because it's similar to me, like I can remove it. It's nothing. It's a synthetic sugar to say, yeah, we have type here, but still we will infer it. But why I have this? Because sometimes we need to introduce annotations, and annotation needs a type. So instead of writing the whole declaration of the variable, you just can use var. So you see, it's a small enhancement, and more focus in even in corner cases to give you more excuse me, more enhancement over the time and for your corner cases for your code. So let's see another single file source code. This is very interesting feature. To be honest, this is how you can try in Java program immediately, especially for student. If you want to try, there is always, for me, it doesn't have a problem. I can compile and I can always run the dot class with Java in order to in order to have my program running. But why for new student that learning Python and everything, like I need to just run it quickly. So now, as you know, that we can run Java with Java immediately. You can have it, and with some specific limitation. And I wrote a big article about this with limitations, everything. But this is very interesting feature. I also, for us as a professional, we can make use of it, and we will see it later on, which is using it with shell scripting. What does it mean? Using shebang notation here. So imagine this is literally a source code file, and I'm writing like program that I can use here to list some directories, and just I introduce this magical line here in my Java source code, which is shebang notation, starting from 11, whatever you can use. And then I can just save this file named in whatever it is. I will call it dir list, like directory listing. But someone will ask me, it's contradict the rule of this. The file name has to be the same name of the source code. No, in this case, it doesn't have to be the same case. Why? Because it's compiled in memory. It doesn't compile. It doesn't have class path. So I don't care about the name. And you can, after that, just change the mode to be executable like this. And voila, you can run it as a scripting file. What does it mean? I mean that I can speed up my black box testing with my code base. I can do all this kind of stuff without learning Bash in order to run it. I can immediately do it in Java because I'm skilled in Java. I can do my testing with HTTP module. I can connect to REST REST APIs. I can connect to HTTP APIs. I can do WebSocket calls with different versions, security, with everything. Then I can use it for black box testing my APIs and for performance, or even Sainty testing, or smoke testing. But it's in Java and it runs as a bash file at the end. You can have it in the bin directory and you just call it and it will run. So it's very powerful and great. So HTTP client, because I have mentioned, this has been introduced as a complete module, and it's very easy to use. You just has 4 API modules: HTTP client, HTTP request, and then you can create your client, you can create your request, and then finally you can call client.send asynchronous or synchronous as you wish, and then you get the body and processing it. If you have WebSockets, you just need to implement your listener, and finally from the HTTP client you can say new WebSocket, and you just build a sync, and then you give the URI. It's WS because it's WebSocket, or WSS if Web Secure Socket, and then you pass the listener. Everything will go forward and backward between your client until someone of you decided to close the communications. Pretty simple, pretty easy, much more modern, and you don't have to use external libraries. In Java 12, we have less features, but we start the concept of features behind the flag. What does it mean? It means that we have features, but it's not available by default, but you have to enable the flag, which dash enable preview, in order to try it out. Why? Because it's risky. It might to change. It might, to be dropped completely. And also it's not ready for production, but it's for you to try it and to make your code ready for this. Once it becomes available, you already have it at the time of that release. So we started here the switch expressions, the new one, and then introduce bunch of GVM. You will find always a lot of enhancement in the GVM and some APIs enhancement that we have also open sourced like micro benchmarking for making performance testing for algorithms, not the system. It's not like JMeter. You cannot use it for performance testing. It's for algorithms. If you have like security algorithms implementations or searching implementations or query the database in different query syntax, and you would like to test the performance between both of them, you can use micro benchmarking in this case for different architecture and everything, which suit that GVM. And also, so I will not speak about any feature here as a preview. I will speak it about only the released feature. So in Java 12, as I told you, this is the first introduction of preview feature. Such features are only available if the compiler and GVM is launched with -- enable preview option. If we look at Java 13, it's also introduced another text blocking. Text blocks as a preview feature, and switch expression has received some enhancement feedback from the community, and I will show you a great change based on this. And also we have some changes because there were a lot of cleaning and some starting effort of re-implementing legacy socket API to be ready for virtual thread. Virtual thread took a lot of effort. Project Loom was out there for a long time, but we have to adapt internally before we give you all the APIs to be ready for your application to use. So all the JDK APIs are ready to use virtual threads as well. So there is harmony here. And Java 14 finally came out and introduced a lot of other features. As you can see again and again, GVM has a lot of implementation. There is ZGC has been introduced for macOS for production. Finally, it's not experimental anymore. ZGC on Windows also as a part has been introduced. We have switch expression finally came out to production and ready for use since Java 14. Records has been introduced. Text block receives second preview. Pattern matching for instance of also started as a first preview. We have some APIs. We introduced foreign memory and access API as an incubator. So we have preview feature for the language features. We have incubators for the APIs. So, but these serve the same concept, and you have to use -- enable preview. And definitely we will not forget about deprecation and removal. So in order to remove the packaging, all the packaging tool, cumbersome one, which was very tiring, once we deprecated here, we start to introduce packaging tool, and we will talk about it as a first incubator in order to have enhanced one instead of the old one. So let's touch, we remember this old style C++ or C based switch expression. So here I'm just only need a Roman value, and based on the value I would like to assign this Roman value a specific value, and I have to break, because if I forget break I will cry. And after that, if there is no value matching, I need to do some printf for output, you are out of the range, and return that value at the end. It's so lengthy, and also I hate fail through break if I forget about it. If you are a junior or senior, whatever it is, and you forget it, you will debug a lot in order to understand it if it's lengthy. So we say like, okay, let's enhance it to use arrow token. So we don't need to have break, because once after this arrow token, I can just assign the value immediately and it will break. It means I have the value here and it's done. So also this is switch statement. Why? Because I have to assign the value in something and I used it as a statement. But we introduced also switch expressions, which you can use a switch as a return type. So I give up this kind of variable, and now I can return immediately from switch. So I don't have to assign, and I can say, okay, return the switch, and you can just say the leg and it will return the value. And this is really, really amazing. So now we have switch statement and expressions that you can even assign it to variable directly in your code. You don't need to have something and assign that variable inside the switch statement anymore. So switch expressions also get more enhancement. The old way that if we like to match multiple cases, we leave it like this: break, 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 only here, and then case 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 will any one of those has to be the kind odd and break, and if it's like even, then you assign the value even like this. This is like, it's not looks nice. Why not enhance it? So the new way, you can just comma separate it and you can return the value. It's much more concise and cleaner. And you can see here that it's also a switch expression, because I assigned the value into a variable immediately, and they used var, and it could be also, inferred. So also I can use yield if I would like. If I would like not to use the arrow token, I would like to use the colon, I will use break or yield. By the way, it was break. And then the community has been like, complaining why it doesn't mean anything. It looks ugly, like break value. So it means it much better if it's yield value. So this feedback has been brought back to the engineers, and literally because of this, it has been changed. So if you use it in Java 13 and you start using the same code in Java 14 and you use the break, it will break, and you will receive compilation error because of this change. This is why behind the flag feature is very important in such cases when we change at the last moment. So there is a tiny thing that was really, really nice also since Java 14, that it's more explanation about the most ugliest and most famous null pointer exception. So if we have something like this, a.I, and the throw exception, I immediately know that a is null and I is, I'm trying to access I based on null object. So this is easy and to grasp. But what if you have object inside object inside object inside object? You have to debug to know which one is null. But since Java 14, you have, there is a flag, if you enable that, you will receive the exception, not like previously this one, this exception thrown here, but here you will find like there is a problem in thread main. Yes, because I cannot read flag C because E.B is null, means B is null. So C is not readable. Then where is it? At the program line number 5. And if you are still using Java 14, you can enable this feature by this flag, but also starting from 15 onward, it becomes enabled by default to help you with this feature. So Java 15 came after that. Text block has been standardized. Sealed classes, has been introduced. Pattern matching, for instance, receive second preview, records second preview. A lot of like some GVM enhancement for Shenandoah and ZGC. Shenandoah is first implementation, by the way, by Red Hat. And we have APIs here, has been introduced, an incubator. And also we start re-implementing the legacy datagram sockets API for preparation for Project Loom. Deprecation and removals as usual. You can see that we have deprecated Nation JavaScript engine and Solar and Spark ports, and Nation JavaScript, you don't need it anymore here because we have Grail VM. So let's speak about text block. The old way of writing multi-line text with indentation and plussing and, and adding the new lines. It's really was really ugly and very hard to read, and it's not readable and it's not maintainable at all. So we try to avoid it and try to use different libraries. But in Java 15, you have the beautiful text block. That way you can start with 3 quotations, and you can just write whatever you want with the indentation. Everything will be saved for you. If there is a new line, indentation, everything will be the same as you wrote it. I use it a lot in data queries and my repositories in Spring, in in GPA, and Jakarta EE specification for GPA, and all of these kind of things, like for creating JSON and for creating the XML more, full way that I can, use it. So Java 16 came with, again, a lot of, standardization. Pattern matching has been standard. Records, warning for value-based classes. This is very important. To later on to treat the wrapper classes as a primitive data type. You don't have to create it with a new keyword with the constructor. Now, if you try to create it, you will get compilation warnings that you cannot do this. You can use value of, because they are just wrappers. They are holding value. So why we have to deal with it as, as an object? It has to be dealt with as a primitive data type at the end. So you cannot synchronize it anymore. It doesn't need, it has to be safe. And you can compare it with equal, not with dot equal method. And also you don't have to create it as an object. Just you can assign the value immediately. Integer x equal 2. You don't have to say new integer and you pass 2 anymore. This is also work for optional and or any kind of this. It has annotation, and it's called value based. So we have a lot of enhancement in APIs and introduction and incubators, and also GVM received bunch of enhancement. Also, we have very important Alpine Linux port. This is dramatically reduce the GVM size inside your Docker image, and then you have easier Docker image and much more less Docker image size that make you really if you use this Alpine and the linker API, you will reduce application dramatically to use just what is needed for your final applications. And this is easy for DevOps to migrate, to to move the to deploy this Dockerized images easily and much more easier. So we have also our A architecture port hardware for Windows, and we decided, okay, we have to introduce it because Java has to be available everywhere. So migration also happens from the GitHub OpenJDK, from the old Miracle system into GitHub. So now you can go to GitHub, you can point to OpenJDK, you can see what is going on, and you can contribute as well. Packaging tool also has been introduced here. Let's deep dive now. Record, as you know, I will not speak about it too much because it's, this is when we always try to use value objects or something immutable, and we have to write a class, something like this, just only to make it immutable also for X and Y. And this is a big ceremony and it's error prone and you can write it wrong. And, we don't have to use this anymore. To simplify this, Record has introduced this phenomenal, syntax. Just record point int X and Y. Where is toString? Where is hash code? Where is all of this has been implemented for you, and records are finals at the end. So we have two constructor. If you would like to make some checks about X and Y, I want to check about them, like ranges or nullability or variables or whatever I want to check. I can use canonical constructor. I can use canonical if I want to do checks and reassign the values. If I want only to do some checkings and based on I don't need to do assignment, I can use the compact constructor. Another enhancement has been received, which is local records, that I can use records inside any method. I don't previously in previous versions, like when it was incubator, you cannot use record as a local. You have to declare it in a different source code, while you are just using it inside as a construct inside a method or inside a source code. And now also you can use it as a local. Here I'm doing like streaming processing for some data, and I want an intermediate record to hold some values. But after the method, I don't need that record anymore. So I declared it here, as you can see, and then I use it here to hold the values, and then I can collect it finally to list as I wanted to have a list of merchant. But this is very powerful also way of declaration. So pattern matching, for instance, is of, what is S? I don't know. Anyway, and it's make it easier for you for comparison and also casting. It reduces the ceremony of this. So imagine that we have this equal method that I'm trying to return if O is instance of case insensitive string, and then I have to cast. If this has returned true, then I need to talk about the property of this object. I want to, if they are equal, ignore case with the current S of this object. So I can just reduce it to be like this. If O instance of case insensitive is string, if this is true, then implicitly cast and assign it to CIS. Then I can use CIS.S that equals the current string, then return equal true. So this is much more easier to read and to use. And also you can use property check. Imagine that if object instance of string, if it's true, assign it to string and do property check. If the also string dot length greater than 5, this is very nice for also a password, for example. Then start using string immediately if it contains something and whatever you want, because it will be available between that block. Imagine this old normal that we get used to equal method. So there is point, I have to cast it, then I would like to do this. Like now I can just use it, like I can switch it and turn it into this more readable code. So return if O instance of point, assign it to other, and then if x, y of this object equal to others those x and y, then return. So we don't have to use thank you for instance of to make it easy for us, pattern matching for instance of. So the new feature of Java 17 here. So Java 17 has been the latest long-term support release after Java 11. And it doesn't have any language features too much. It has just only restore always string floating point. Now the floating point is one way to work on all the hardwares. And pattern matching for switch has been introduced because we have it for instance of. Now we introduce it for switch. Sealed classes has been finalized. GVM enhancement, a new Mac OS architecture port has been introduced to support the silicon-based Mac computers, APIs, deprecation, and removal, as you can see. If you're going to speak about sealed classes and interface, actually, it's served the way that we were using, this will allow the author of the classes or interfaces to control the code responsible for implementing those classes or interfaces, and also provide more declarative way than access modifiers to restrict. We were using protected, public, private, package, visibility based access modifiers, which is nothing, and then to control who can author what, but it wasn't that concise, it wasn't that visible always. But now with also sealed classes, it's going to be supported in pattern matching for instance of, and switch specifically, it will be dramatically reduced the way that you can check the hierarchy. So imagine easily, we have here package called geometry, I have abstract sealed class called shape, and I say that shape only permits circle, rectangle, square, and weird shapes to be implementing me as a shape. Anyone else trying compilation error, you cannot, because I didn't permit you. And then the declaration of the others has to be final, because there is no extension anymore, or and extend shape, yes, because you allowed. And this sealed, it could be sealed also because I'm trying to close the rectangle shape, to extend shape, but also permit another way, another to implement rectangle, and those are a transparent rectangle and field rectangle, and also square extend shape, and it's final. And finally, I can open for the external authors to do whatever they want following the specification of the shape, but only for that weird shape. You can do your shape under this shape, but you cannot play with all the square implementation, circle, rectangle, with even its different variant implementations. So this is how it controls, because you will receive compilation error. So the class is sealed by applying sealed modifier, just for recap, to its declaration. Then after any extension, it's implement clause. The permit clause specify the classes permitted to extend that class. Also, sealed classes work amazingly with records. Imagine this, doing some mathematical expressions and operations, and I try to use final classes only just to have expressions, plus expression, time expression, and these kind of things. Like and all of them final. It's very great use case for records. So sealed classes work well with records, so you can just use it like this. I have sealed interface expression permit those kind of operations, and I will declare it record. Why? Records by default are final, so we don't need to provide it, and we can concisely provide the the variables and their constructors, and that's it. Because also record can implement only interfaces, no extensions. And this combination is called algebraic data type, sealed classes with record classes. So packaging tool, this is very important to notice that we now provide JPackage tool for packaging self-contained Java application. If you are building desktop application, support native packaging format. So you have the following format: MSI and XE for Windows, package.dmg for Mac, and deb and RMB for Linux. How can I create? Pretty simple. I can just make use of the JPackage dash name of your application and input library that included also, and the main dash main jar is the jar of your application here. And if you want to also specify which type, by default it will packages based on the operating system you are running on. If you are by default run this line on Windows, it will create for you MSI or exe if you specify, and so on. If I want to specify a specific type, I can use just dash type, and also I can specify which main class. If I have more than main classes in my application, I can use dash main class, and I provide my main class. It's very simple, very powerful, and concise. So those about the last, Java 17, and let's now move to 18 to 21 opinionated features. So 18 comes small and introduced pattern matching for switch for the second review, introduced one of the most powerful thing that I love to come with, which is UTF by default. And we will speak about re-implement core reflections and method handlers, some enhancement and API tools. We have, this is very nice, two things we will speak about it. Simple web server has been introduced for people who would like to run static content, and he doesn't have to have Node.js or some other external, web server to run this content to check about it. And also we have deprecation finalization for removal. So UTF, what does it mean? We know, simply stated, when we write something on Mac or Linux, it's using UTF-8 as a default encoding schema. And if I wrote this file and I would like to run it read it just on Windows, you will get this ugly gibberish or garbage. Why? Because Windows use different character schema. And this is affect the communication, affect the I/O operations and filing and everything. So now Java decided to make it all UTF. If you just run after Java 18, you run this code, you will receive the correct Arabic version of what is written in that file. JIP 400 example. Why? Because it will fall back to not using the default operating system. It will use UTF by default. If you write something on Windows OS, it will be UTF by default, so it can be read on Mac OS. So this is a great addition. It takes a lot of time, but it's applicable on all JDK IO from now on. So you don't have to worry about the conversion unless you want it explicit. Simple web server, as I told you, with a single line, it's called JWeb server, and it's by default it listens to local port 8000. So you just start it, and it will start listening to the current directory, exposing what's inside, and based on the folders, and you will have it the URL on local host and 8,000. You can customize it. Definitely, there is a bunch. I encourage you to go to read about it. For the people who maintain Java documentation, finally we can write code that is not outdated with Java snippet. I wrote an article about this in Java Magazine. You can check about it. So if I'm writing Java, the old way using pre and code and all of this, now snippet, actually trying to combine the code even if it doesn't work. And also you can mention in snippets a part of a source code in different source file. You can mention it, and when you change it, that code, it will reflect automatically here in your documentation with the new change. So whenever you change, you have this ability to reflect the changes without going back to documentation to update all of it, with a lot of like enhancement. And also there is a lot of features. How it could be shown at the end in the Java documentation, you will find it like this, and you'll find rectangular gray box with formatting the layout. You can highlight, you can have links to methods. That there is a lot of features out there. There is patterns also. You can have specific, highlights and bolding and, italic and whatever it is. And also you just can click this lovely button to copy that code and try it out. And, it's amazing. So Java 19, we have record patterns, pattern matching, a new JVM port, and some enhancement. And Java 20 came up with record patterns, pattern matching, scoped value, and importantly, virtual thread received as tuned preview feature. And finally, Java 21. So it has a lot of standardization and brought some features. This is the last thing that I'm going to speak about. A lot of APIs that we have introduced, and also JVM definitely enhancement and deprecation. So let's speak about, we have a new now sequence collection. This is the way that you can traverse, your collections and access the last element, get first element, last one, remove the first, remove the last. And for sorted sets and linked hash set, you can reverse, make reversed. And also for sorted map and linked hash map has been a lot of enhancement, and you can put first and put last, remove first and last, and whatever it is, you can traverse it. So a small example, this is the old way to get the first element and the last element, and the new way you can get it, in this very easy way. So if you want to speak about record pattern, consider this pattern we have for record. And before Java 1, we have to write it like this, if O instance of pattern B, then I use B in order to access its properties. And the new way is just I will use the pattern instance of, and I can access the variables directly, as you can see, X and Y, without even making assignment and internally. Why this? Because it will be more cumbersome. The same enhancement happens here for switch. So this is the old way, and this is the new way, so I can access X and Y easier and immediately. So let's see complex example.
Okay, Mohamed, I need to stop you because you like a powerful train just trying to push us whole knowledges about changes of Java for this 10 years almost. But we almost fill all the time of Q&A, break and other things, and that's why I need just to stop you and thank you. Thank you, and hope it could be like additional thing why you decide to came to us to the third time and probably talk about latest changes of Java for people who didn't hear this like detailed information about 18 and other things. Also, they would get an answers to the questions from Slido about philosophy of Java that they was asking about system design and other things. That's why I need just to stop because we have other speakers and guys who ask the questions. You would have you would get an answers actually on our email, the follow-up letters. Mohamed definitely will answer.
I will share my presentation to take it as a note also for them. And we were just at the last part, so it doesn't miss a lot. So it was just this new feature. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, the time is
Yes, thank you,
always,
Mohamed Taman, and it was Mohamed Taman and his eager move. Yeah, hope you see you on the next JavaConf.